Unrivaled, sustainable, but you're running off, take another job anyway. All right. I understand that season's close to ending, but I don't know. I don't know. So a lot of people are seeing this and they're doing the, oh crap, is the CBA not going to get done? Because the end of this season that she's going to play in.
That hesitation you just heard, that's someone in real time trying to figure out what this actually means. Because on February 18, 2025, while CBA negotiations are supposedly at the 11th hour, Breanna Stewart, vice president of the WNBA Players Association, just committed to playing overseas in Turkey starting April 15th. Training camp for the WNBA season also starts April 19th. Same exact week, so either she knows something we don't about these negotiations, or this is about to get very messy, very fast.
So this was an announcement from a Turkish basketball club that Stewart would be joining the squad ahead of the EuroLeague Final Six. I would assume maybe this is their championship playoff kind of run. Look, I don't know anything about EuroLeague basketball. I'm not even going to try to act like I do. Per the release, Stewart, who played for, insert this team's name here that I'm not even going to attempt, in 2023, and helped lead the team to his first EuroLeague championship, will join in April. In April!
Here's what we know for certain. The Turkish basketball club, Fenerbahce, announced Stewart would be joining their roster ahead of the EuroLeague Final Six tournament. This isn't her first time playing for them. She was there in 2023 and helped lead the team to their first EuroLeague championship. The tournament runs from April 15th through April 19th in Spain. Liberty teammates Breanna Stewart, Sabrina Ionescu, and Gabby Williams from Seattle will all be on that roster. Now, on the surface, this seems fine. The tournament ends literally the same day training camp begins. She'd miss maybe one day, fly back, and everything's normal. Except nothing about the timing of this announcement is normal.
That includes Liberty teammate Emma Messaman and Gabby Williams from Seattle. And there's the picture of the release right there. Welcome back, Breanna Stewart. Of course, there's obviously tons of precedent for WNBA players competing overseas, but the timing of Stewart's commitment has led to some speculation among fans, whether it should be taken as a signal regarding the state of the WNBA CBA negotiations.
Let's establish the timeline here, because context matters. Adam Silver went public during NBA All-Star Weekend, just days ago, saying the WNBA collective bargaining talks have reached the 11th hour. His exact words called for urgency from all parties. The owners, the league office, and the players. That's not the language you use when everything's going smoothly. That's crisis management speak. And in the middle of that public plea for urgency, one of the most prominent players in the league, and a vice president of the union, announces she's taking an overseas contract that ends the exact day training camp starts. The optics alone are terrible.
Yeah, I just did a video yesterday. He called for urgency. I don't know. The EuroLeague competition will conclude prior to the start of the season. All right. Per FIBA, the EuroLeague Women Final Six will be hosted in Spain from April 15th through the 19th, 2026. WNBA training camp is scheduled to begin April 19, with the season commencing on May 8th. So, assuming Stewart plays the maximum number of contests overseas at work.
But here's where it gets more complicated. Stewart herself has been publicly optimistic about CBA negotiations recently. She went on record saying she was beginning to feel positive about the direction of talks. So what changed? Or more importantly, what does she know that we don't? There are really only three possibilities here. First option, she believes a deal will be done by mid-April and her presence isn't needed for final negotiations. That would be optimistic but possible. Second option, she thinks the season is going to be delayed anyway, so she might as well make money overseas while negotiations drag on. That's pragmatic but concerning. Third option, she doesn't think her individual presence matters that much to the negotiation process, which raises questions about union leadership dynamics. None of those scenarios look great from a public perception standpoint.
Or I don't know that I don't know that there's much to be read out of this, really and truly. If she's played in this before, and obviously, I believe it said 2023. Well, there was no lockout or work stoppage then at all. I imagine she got a good hunk of money to go over there and play, would be my guess. But I don't know that there's a lot to read from this. If now, if the ending of this season.
Now let's talk about what fans are seeing. The WNBA, by generous estimates, has about 4 million fans right now, and here's the thing about that number. Roughly 3.5 million of those fans are relatively new to the league. They came in because of Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, the 2024 rookie class explosion. They're not longtime WNBA diehards who understand the intricacies of overseas contracts and EuroLeague schedules. These newer fans see a headline that says WNBA star signs overseas contract in April, while simultaneously hearing CBA negotiations in crisis mode, and their immediate thought is, wait, is there going to be a season? That's the alarm bell going off in casual fans' heads right now. They don't know that overseas play has been standard for WNBA players for years. They just know something feels off about the timing, and perception matters. The WNBA just had its best season ever in terms of visibility and ratings. The last thing the league needs is casual fans checking out because they think there might not be a 2025 season.
We need urgencies. He called for urgency, by the way, from all parties. The WNBA owners and NBA owners side and the players. So does Stewart believe the negotiations will be done and signed, sealed, and delivered? Does she believe her presence isn't needed? I mean, sometimes that kind of thing baffles me because I'm still trying to figure out we didn't start really talking back and forth till the beginning of February. You've had months, and you still got players that claim they don't exactly know what's going on. And you're one of the leaders of the players' union.
Let's also consider the prioritization clause situation. The current CBA has penalties for players who don't prioritize the WNBA season over overseas commitments. Now, Stewart has played in this tournament before. She did it in 2023 without any issues. So technically, she's not breaking new ground here. But the context in 2023 was completely different. There was no looming CBA deadline. There was no public statement from the commissioner about urgent negotiations. There was no risk of a delayed or shortened season. The question becomes, is this a middle finger to the prioritization clause and its penalties? Some fans are interpreting it that way. Whether that's fair or not, that's the conversation happening right now on social media and in WNBA circles. And when you're a vice president of the players' union, your actions get scrutinized through a different lens than a regular player.
Many fan, they probably are wondering, oh shit, is this going to be a real problem? Just saying. How is this received by Adam Silver in the NBA/WNBA owners? That's another question that I would love answered. Tell me what you think. Is this a 5-alarm fire or no big deal since she's done it before? Peace, I'm out.
So let's get to the real question that matters here. How does Adam Silver receive this news? How do the WNBA owners receive this news? Because from a negotiating standpoint, this is not a strong look for the players' side. When the commissioner goes public saying negotiations need urgency, and one of your union vice presidents immediately announces an overseas commitment that could potentially conflict with training camp, it sends a message. Maybe not the message Stewart intended, but a message nonetheless. It suggests either the players don't think the deadline is as urgent as Silver claims, or they're preparing for a work stoppage scenario, or there's a disconnect between union leadership and the actual state of negotiations. From the owner's perspective, this could be interpreted as the players not taking negotiations seriously enough. And in collective bargaining, perception and leverage are everything. If owners think players are comfortable walking away or delaying the season, that changes the entire dynamic of what gets offered and what gets accepted. Here's what makes this situation particularly significant. The WNBA is at a genuine inflection point right now. The league just experienced unprecedented growth in 2024. Ratings were up dramatically. We're talking about games that pulled 3 million viewers, which would have been unthinkable just 2 years ago. Attendance records were shattered across the league. Merchandise sales exploded. Corporate sponsors who never gave the WNBA a second look are now fighting for partnership deals. All of that momentum, all of that growth, all of that progress is contingent on there being a 2025 season that starts on time. Every week of delay costs the league money, costs players money, and most importantly, costs momentum with that new casual fan base that just discovered the sport. Those fans aren't diehards yet. They're not going to wait around indefinitely if the season gets pushed back or shortened. They'll move on to other sports, other entertainment options, and that's what makes Stewart's decision so puzzling from a strategic standpoint. She's not just any player, she's one of the faces of the league. She's a 2-time WNBA champion, a 2-time Finals MVP, a 5-time All-Star. When she makes moves, people notice. The media covers it, fans react to it, and right now, the reaction is confusion mixed with concern. Think about the position this puts Caitlin Clark in, or Angel Reese, or any of the younger stars who are driving this new wave of popularity. They're watching union leadership make decisions that could jeopardize the season they're supposed to be preparing for. They're seeing mixed messages about how serious the CBA situation actually is. And they're probably wondering, should I be making backup plans too? That's the cascading effect of this announcement. It's not just about whether Breanna Stewart personally makes it back in time for training camp. It's about what signal this sends to every other player in the league, to the owners across the negotiating table, to the media covering these negotiations, and to the fans who are trying to figure out if they should be worried. And here's the thing about beat reporters and league insiders. They're already starting to ask these questions publicly. Robin Lundberg's article that broke this news specifically raised the question of whether this should be taken as a signal about CBA negotiations. That's not a reporter speculating wildly. That's a reporter who covers this league closely enough to know that timing matters, that optics matter, and that union vice presidents don't make overseas commitments during critical negotiation periods without it meaning something. Now, to be fair to Stewart, there are legitimate reasons she might have made this decision that have nothing to do with CBA pessimism. Maybe Fenerbahce offered her significant money. We're talking potentially 6 figures for less than a week of work. Maybe she has personal relationships with teammates on that roster and wants one more run at a EuroLeague championship. Maybe she genuinely believes negotiations will be wrapped up by early April and this is a non-issue. But even if all of those things are true, the decision to announce this publicly right now, in the middle of Adam Silver's public calls for negotiating urgency, shows either a lack of awareness about how this would be perceived or a calculated decision that she doesn't care how it's perceived. And honestly, I'm not sure which of those options is worse from a union leadership standpoint. This also raises questions about communication within the players' union itself. Multiple players have gone on record in recent weeks saying they don't fully understand where negotiations stand, or what the key sticking points are. That's a communication problem. When your rank-and-file membership doesn't know what's happening in their own contract negotiations, that's a failure of union leadership to keep everyone informed and aligned. And now you've got a situation where a union vice president is making international commitments that could conflict with the season's start, while other players are publicly saying they're in the dark about negotiation status. That's not a recipe for a strong, unified negotiating position. That's how unions lose leverage and end up accepting worse deals than they could have gotten. So where does this leave us? The EuroLeague Final 6 tournament will conclude on April 19th. WNBA training camp is scheduled to begin April 19th. The 2025 season is supposed to commence on May 8th. As of right now, there's no collective bargaining agreement in place. The commissioner is publicly calling for urgent action, and one of the union's vice presidents just announced she'll be in Spain playing basketball the exact week training camp starts. Is this a 5-alarm fire, or no big deal? Honestly, the answer probably falls somewhere in between. It's not great optics, and it raises legitimate questions about negotiation progress and union strategy. But it's also not necessarily a sign that the season is doomed, or that talks have completely broken down. Stewart has done this before without incident. The tournament does technically end before training camp starts, and players have been supplementing their WNBA income with overseas play for decades. But context matters. Timing matters. And right now, the context is a league at a critical juncture with negotiations at a critical stage. The timing is terrible. And the message it sends, intentional or not, is that at least some union leadership isn't concerned enough about the April 19th training camp deadline to avoid scheduling conflicts. The real test will be what happens over the next 6 weeks. Do negotiations accelerate and get wrapped up by early April, making this whole discussion moot? Does the season start on time with Stewart back from Turkey and ready to go? Or do we see delays, extensions, and the kind of labor drama that could derail all the momentum the WNBA built in 2024? So here's my question for you. If you were Adam Silver or one of the WNBA owners sitting across the negotiating table from the players' union, how would you interpret this move? Does this make you more or less likely to make concessions? Does this suggest the players are prepared to miss games if necessary? Or does it suggest union leadership isn't as unified and strategic as they need to be? Drop your take in the comments, because I genuinely want to know how people are reading this situation. And if you found this breakdown valuable, hit that like button and subscribe, because we're going to be following these CBA negotiations closely as the April deadline approaches. This story is far from over.